Sales Edge live. And there is just so much going on right now. It's pretty unbelievable. If you were coming to the Ed Sales Edge live to see Dr. Tara Williams, she's unfortunately sick. However, fortunately for you, you get Dr. Tara's cohort companion from the Ed Sales Elevation Experience, my good friend Wayne. So, Wayne, we're going to bring you into the show, but there's been a lot going on. And Wayne's had a lot going on, work, life. I've had a lot going on, work, life. But that's what we signed up for when we decided to be entrepreneurs. So this is where we are. So Wayne, I know you've had a lot going on, and so I appreciate you sitting in today.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. And big shoes to fill with Tara. So
Yeah. She told a really cool story in our interview, and what she talked about is really this idea that what you hide the most is what people want to hear about the most. And you and I have done a lot of work together through the Ed Sales Elevation Experience, one-to-one, through your wonderful team. And we both believe in sharing with people our lives and potentially what you're going through to a degree outside of work. People list their CEO title, they share their framework, they think I gotta have more case studies, or maybe my brand needs to be bigger. Do I need to polish more? But in education, it's not just your credentials that get you the attention. We can build trust. And trust comes from alignment. Trust comes from being steady. And in today's conversation, we're going to talk about how you have built trust over the last couple decades, and specifically with Higher Digital. Before we go any further, give everybody 30 seconds on who you are in Higher Digital so they can know where you're coming from.
Great. Thanks. Wayne Bovier, founder, CEO of Higher Digital. Josh, I think you know this. We just hit our 9th anniversary on Valentine's Day of this year. So we've already deep into, or at least 2 weeks into our 10th year, which is crazy to say. So Higher Digital, we focus solely on higher education, primarily in the UK and the US. And we are a consulting and software company that really specializes around kind of operational efficiency, effectiveness, digital transformation. We have senior level folks in experience, so we can pinpoint specific problems and challenges. But we tend to work with CIOs and cabinets and boards, which, obviously this concept of trust, especially for a startup, it's taken a long time, and especially in a relationship industry, you got to be methodical about it, and you got to, always keep trust as a centerpiece, in my opinion, to every engagement that you're doing. So that's a little bit of background on me and the company and the topic at hand. So great. Josh, back to you.
Thank you. Founders assume that credibility is a checklist, right? They think about degrees and titles, awards, frameworks, case studies. In education, though, and you know this very well, decision-making is slow and engagement can be quiet. Trust can be earned long before a contract starts. And we believe specifically in using LinkedIn to build that trust long before you meet somebody. I like to say that you want your credibility to walk in the door long before you do. And one of the ways that we do that is we post. Yeah. And I like to think, as this audience knows, I like to think about the LinkedIn work that we do in two different ways. One of them, LinkedIn is like a conference, and your stage your network is your stage, and you can post on other people's uh, uh, comment on other people's posts, and that is like their sessions. And then the hallways are the DMs, and then you've got to think about LinkedIn as a gym. You got to go 3 to 5 times a week, and sometimes you go to the gym and you don't have it. You don't want to be
tired.
there.
You know, like you
It
had a
doesn't
bad night's
matter.
sleep. You know,
Yeah. You don't get enough sleep. It doesn't matter how many Red Bulls you drink, you know, you just don't have it that day. And that's a good day to just comment. Just find people you believe in, comment, and lift them up that way. But when you got it, man, when you got it, when you're in the gym and you got it, and whatever, you know, amps you up is amping you up, then you do sit down and you write a post. And you write a post like you did when you talked about 1997 and your 12-year-old beat up stick shift. So talk about that post that you wrote, and why you wrote that, and what has been the effect of that really significant post.
Yeah, thanks. You know, again, thanks for this. And I'm going to answer your question, but I'm going to come about it based upon a little bit of the title about credentials, right? So I'm gonna start there. You know, in higher education or in education in general, whether you're K-12 or, you know, higher education, you know, everybody's got a credential, right? And it's not like credentials are meaningless; they're not. But in the industry where it's saturated, the meaning and impact can be, you know, if you're not really fully understanding of this, can be you know, over indexed. It could be over, you know, you could give too much weight to it, right? And you know, like, oh, this should carry me through the day because I have a PhD. Well, in higher ed, like, you know, everybody has a PhD.
Mm-hmm.
So, and in many cases, you know, as you get to know people, and I've had many conversations, especially with provosts, presidents, they don't want the honorific. They don't want the doctor in front. Don't call me doctor, right? Even though I have a PhD, right? Like, I've been told that many times. Now I'll start it out with the, you know, calling them appropriately doctor, blah, 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 whatever, right? So I think that first and foremost is, you know, I wanted to kind of throw out my opinion and thoughts about the credentials component. Yeah. Now, how does that relate to the post that I did? Well, this brings, I think, to the broader reality. Again, higher education is a relationship industry. Everybody, you know, they get hired. It's who you know. You know, I don't like the word incestuous because that's not really accurate. But, you know, you get a lot of professionals that, you know, start up in, you know, as a professor in one institution, and then they get to be a provost in another institution. Right. And over time, you start to get to meet people and all over the place. So there's a lot of cross-pollination that happens. And so what ends up being most meaningful when you know, because people hire us, like, so I'll speak for me and Higher Digital. We get hired because of trust.
Yep.
No, especially for where we work, you know, work with CIOs and presidents and chancellors and provosts and vice chancellors. So anybody that brings us in is essentially guaranteeing that who I'm bringing in is going to do the job. Mm-hmm. Right. And, you know, credentials alone gets maybe a pinky in the door. Right. And that's it. The rest of the stuff is really about who you are. What's important to you. And, you know, because institutions, they don't just educate, right? They actually prepare students. Now, there are all different types of institutions, you know, community colleges, 2 years, 4 years, public, privates, you know, all different specialties and things like that. And they're, you know, obviously their core mission is to get the student ready for a job, but it's much more than that. There's a lot more that goes into supporting students. And so if you're bringing somebody in the strategic nature or implementation, you're going to really want to know who they are. Right. And what do they stand for? And so the personality matters. And over a period of time, you know, it takes some it takes a little bit to get to know each other. And so going back to that article that I posted, it was really about, okay, what have I learned through my career, starting at that, no cushion, spring only seat,
Mm.
which, was terrible. Whacked my back for a bit, but whatever. I was, early 20s, and
Right.
I didn't know any better and
Those
didn't
are the
care.
least of your concerns.
I didn't care, right? And so, but I thought it was important to kind of open myself up. And I think what you said regarding Tara's comment, showing people, and I wouldn't say that it's hiding, right? But maybe some people feel, it's not important. I'm gonna tamp it down. But the reality is, if it if you're able to show who you are, right, and that really runs a gamut. It's not just your credentials and what you know in higher ed. It is, what's really important to you. What are your personal priorities? How do you go about doing work? I also think listening is a
Yeah.
major component, right?
Yeah.
And really understanding what is going on. And so, my post was just me as a way of opening up a little bit. Yes, it was a little uncomfortable for me, but I did think it was kind of fun, showing
Mm.
it back in the day, and I got a lot of feedback, right? And it's really about people getting to know me, and I have
Yeah.
close friends that are like, "Oh, dude, I remember that car," or
Yeah.
I remember that time, and
Oh, we
yeah,
did in that car.
yeah, right. So that to me is kind of all interrelated.
Yeah.
And going back to Tara's point, posting an article that article that you just mentioned, I did. It's about me digging in and suppressing some of the, oh, maybe I shouldn't be talking about myself this way,
Right.
and just sharing a little bit, being a little bit vulnerable,
Yeah.
I think is what ultimately builds that trust.
Yeah. There's a couple ways that really we think people, kind of think about credibility. You have the resume thinking. I need stronger positioning. I need bigger results. I need to look more established. Then there's the trust market reality. I need to show I understand their complexity by listening. I need to show I've navigated hard things. I need to show that I'm steady under pressure. That if you're, that they're not necessarily looking at a completely polished, finished product. We're still working things. What we have a lot of these discussions here. We have them in the cohort. We are also starting to have them in school. And I'll be honest. I'll always be honest with the audience. So last week was kind of a tough week. We started. We rolled out our community, which is something I've been waiting many years to do. We got like no signups, like none, zero, like kaput, zero. But you know what? The thing is, it's not a messaging thing. It's not that communities don't work. It's not that I don't have people around me that support and want to be together. It's just we were going out the wrong way. And finally, my coach Andrew basically was like, "Yo, dude, do you want to like listen to my ideas on how you should do this? Because like that's why you're paying me." And I said, "Yeah, look, I can do that." And we completely flipped. And we started using School, the platform SKOL that's backed by Alex Hormozy. There's a QR code there on the screen. People can join. We started with 0 people at the beginning of the week, and we are now up to 41 members. And when I say 41 members, I mean like 41 impressive members. You look at the bios, and these are people that we really want to be around. So I bring that story up to say, ding, 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 grab the QR code, join us in the entourage. It's free. It's a great group. But also I'm just being clear and hopefully letting people know that, not everything is Rose is here, and I had a tough week last week, but we
And I
got through
think,
it.
I'm going to turn the spotlight on you and just say what you just did is exactly what we're just talking about, right? And you probably know that, right? Like, you're opening up and saying, look, we rolled it out and it was a dud. Sharing that openly and publicly takes a lot of bravery and courage. And that is, I think, inherently the majority of people out there, certainly professionals, respect that. But I think that the message, in addition to just sharing that about who you are, what you've done is you've opened yourself up to listening and adjusting and trying something new, that you're not stuck in you're not stuck in, I got to do it right. It's my ego. We're going to do it my way or the highway. Right. And I think that's a perfect example of, what it takes to build trust. Right. Because it's like, listening, if I didn't know you, I'd be listening in and saying, oh, okay. Well, I feel like if I have a conversation with Josh and he gives me his opinions and I'm like, I'm not sure that's exactly right. My impression is that he would listen and then adjust. I may be right, I may not be right, but that inherently is, in order to have a real trusting relationship, it's got to go both in both directions, where you are talking and listening.
Yeah. One of the biggest leaps that I took was writing about my father. My dad died on June the 9th, and you and I share the fact that both of our fathers died last year.
Yep.
And I wrote about it because I wasn't able to defeat grief, and as entrepreneurs, as founders, we slay dragons every single day. That's why we're trying. Sometimes they slay us, right? That's what we get paid the huge dollars for. And I couldn't beat grief. And so I started talking about it, and I found it to be very helpful for me, and I found it to be very helpful for others, because they were interested in talking about their grief or their struggle. And some would say, unfortunately, I lost my mother or my father or somebody, in the last year. Or some would say, I got news for you. It's been 10 years and I'm still, dealing with this, and I'm still dealing with it. I just posted something yesterday that got a lot of cool feedback, which I'll tell you one of the pieces of feedback later. But there was the last newspaper I ever read to my dad was on June the 5th. And my dad was a big believer in baseball and just putting the ball in play, see what happens, right? And I had never seen the term kind of bat to barrel. And I read that, and my dad was hooked up to all these machines, and I was just talking to him about bat to barrel and just this idea. And so I have that Washington Post sports section in my nightstand, which might as well be, at this point, I don't know about you, Wayne, might as well be my dad's nightstand, because half of it is his stuff, that I said, my mom's like, we're getting rid of this. I'm like, we can't get rid of that. Are you kidding me? We can't get rid of that. But I have it in there. And then, 3 weeks ago yesterday, the Washington Post got rid of the sports section. So I thought it needed to be written about. You as well have written about this, and what was it like for you to be vulnerable and write about your dad on LinkedIn, and what response did you get?
Yeah, I mean, complicated topic, right? I don't think anyone ever slays grief. I think grief is, it's like tar is permanently stuck to you. Like it's hard to wash off, and it'll show up from time to time, unexpected ways. And inherently LinkedIn is a social media platform, right? It's professional based. And there's a fine line to walk with these platforms. And when you think about, again, going back to opening yourself up and being brave, I felt it was a release for me, in the sense of, like, I needed to acknowledge some things and share some things, for exactly some of the same reasons that you mentioned. Is like, other people have gone through it, or will go through it, or currently going through it, and there's some comfort in that, knowing that you're not alone. Another part of that is just being able to honor and respect kind of my dad's memory and my relationship, and what it means in the context of kind of why I do what I do. And again, part of this is opening up a little bit of sharing who I am. And the reality is that you got to be, in order to do this, you have to be comfortable with the imperfect, right? And death, and struggling, afterwards. All of it is ugly and imperfect.
Yeah.
And when you think about the industry that we're in, or the broader world that we're in, everything is imperfect.
Yeah.
I mean, you think about the technology component. AI has changed everything. There is no such thing as perfect software today. And the reason why is because every piece of software that exists today is legacy software, right? And that's AI, right? And so again, um, if you come across as the most perfect thing, right, on LinkedIn, right, and one of the biggest complaints that I know about LinkedIn is, you see a lot of memes and jokes is like, me, look at me, in the context of my accomplishments and all the awesome stuff, right? Most normal people are like, well, man, my life is messy, it's imperfect, right? And I think that opening yourself up is, and sharing some of the vulnerable aspects of that, shows that you're human, and that this is somebody that I could bring into an imperfect world, in my company or my institution, and they're going to be okay. They're going to understand imperfect, and they're going to be able to help me work through the imperfection, not to achieve perfection, because I don't personally believe that that is ever attainable. But getting better should be, right?
Yeah.
And improving whatever that is, whether it's communications, how you work together, the software, and it is always getting better,
Yeah.
working,
Just put the bat on the ball, barrel
put it
to
in
ball.
play.
Yeah.
Get on first base however you can,
Yeah. And
and then
then leave
cause
it to,
chaos.
exactly. Leave it to our cohort member, future cohort member and community member, and my new friend Alexander Kolchinsky, my Russian friend, and from Russian math tutors there. And he asked a really good question. So it was just the engine school that made the difference between zero and a crowd. What happened to the trust there? And it's a great question. I think that by switching over to school, I'll tell you what, Alexander, I had to change my thinking that this was going to take time. The community building is hard. I forgot, I think, a little bit about that. But yes, the engine of school is just very easy to join. And we were going to use, we were using a landing page, we were charging, and we were going to use high level. And we use high level for the cohort, for our community, and for the course. But for the community that we're building, school was the way to go. And I had to listen to somebody who had done it better, faster, bigger, before me, and I finally did, and now it is growing. In education, Wayne, um, specifically, let's talk about higher ed. Your buyers are watching for patterns. Does this person understand institutional dynamics? Are they thoughtful and consistent? Do they respect governance complexity? Are they steady when initiatives stall? They're not asking, how optimized is Wayne's funnel? Or, are his LinkedIn posts, are they polished? What they want to know is, can you help them? And are you real? And your clients know that. Talk about some of the clients, please, that you work with, and maybe, like, I don't know, give a unique relationship that you have with one.
Yeah. So let me start by I'll answer that question in a second, but let me start by throwing out this experience. Higher education is a unique industry in many ways. There's a big concept called shared governance, right? It's not like your typical commercial company, whatever that is, where there's a CEO and a board and they make a decision, and that's the way it is. Most institutions operate in a kind of a more of a communal decision making kind of apparatus. And I think the biggest mistake, and I've seen it time and time and time and time again, where you bring somebody in from the outside, and they come into higher education thinking that they know best. They look at higher education as laggards. They're not as advanced. They don't know things, and that immediately erodes the trust. Right. And a lot of those people, like, oh, this guy's new, this person's new to higher ed. It's like, all right, let's see how they navigate this. And so for us, you know, it's like a snowball down the hill, right? That when you work with your first couple clients, you really gotta put them out and who you are. You gotta really support them. There are curveballs that get thrown. There's politics that they're dealing with. You got to really understand, what the institution is up against, what the department that maybe you're working with, what the challenges are, and you really work through it. Make yourself available, and at all times, right? Call me. Let me join these meetings, and you go in with a sensitivity. I pretty much every institution that I personally work with, I operate this way, and the rest of my company operates this way. And we really get to know them on a personal basis. And so a lot of the sales, going back to the snowball concept. So the first couple institutions we worked with took a risk on us. And once we work through them, they're like, hey, these guys are great. Then that little network starts to expand out. Like, like American University was our first client as an institution, and worked very closely with the CIO, Dave Schwartz, there. And Dave started to become a big advocate for who we are, what we're up to. And, Dave, he's since retired, but Dave has a very, well, at least when he was working, and obviously still, he's highly respected, both in the ed tech community as well as in the institutional community. He was visible, he was presenting a lot. And so leverage people and in the appropriate ways to help you, and share what makes them good, right? And again, it gets back to that trust. So for us, it is about amplifying that trust through the existing relationships and experiences of our current clients.
Agreed. Cool. So Wayne, in the belief that we should fail fast, first attempt in learning is what I learned from my client and my friend Elliot Neff, who is the founder of Chess for Life. This party is over, and we're supposed to be moving this party from here on LinkedIn, on Instagram, on Facebook, on YouTube, and Substack. You and I, if you're up for it, I don't know when's the last time you went to an after party, but we're calling it an after party. That's what Kim and Alvin called it, an after party. And I was like, guys,
where's my beer? I have some lemonade.
Yeah, I was gonna bring some mezcal, because they were like, there maybe some tequila. I was like, you don't want to see me drink tequila at 1:30, but mezcal will chill me out. So we're going to move this party over to school, and we're going to go live in school, and that is our goal, is to have the people who have joined the community to kind of join in a real like Q&A. We're going to go a little bit deeper on the strategies to build real credibility, and we'll hang out there in the after party for a little while. Now, I have 41 members of the entourage, but I don't know if you're one yet, and I caught you late last night, so you might have to join the entourage to join us in school.
I will be there.
Okay. So, we're flying by the seat of our pants with nothing new. And so grab that QR and I will approve you. I'm going to head over there, and we're going to move the party to the after party. Alvin, we'll see you over there. Hopefully, Alexander, you'll join us. And John Greiner, nice to see you. And hopefully people will join us over there, and we'll see you guys in a few minutes. Join us if you want to join us for the after party, the Q&A. You got to, and if you're not in the entourage already, you got to grab that QR code just like Wayne did, because I can see that he just grabbed it.
Doing it right now, everybody.
And join us. Super easy, isn't it? Yeah, it's really easy and high level, where we were building our community before. It's just not as easy. So meet us over there. I'm going to end us here. Alvin, we'll see you over there. And Wayne,
see you there in a bit.
Let's party on. All right, here we go. Let's do it.